Hi everyone, my special guest today is another former student, Taylor Brown. She was one of my top students in my Principles of Accounting 2 class at Santa Monica College in spring of 2017. Afterwards, she transferred to LMU to major in accounting, where she graduated summa cum laude. Upon graduation, she has been working for Ernst and Young, also known as EY, which is one of the four largest accounting firms in the world, in their San Francisco office. Today, Taylor is a senior associate in their advisory services line. Taylor, thank you so much for making the time to do this video with me.
Thank you for having me, Professor Liu.
Wonderful. All right, so I have some questions lined up for you. The first one is, when most students recruit for an internship or a full-time job offer at a Big Four accounting firm, they have to choose between audit, tax, or advisory services. I find that students generally know what audit or tax is. However, they usually don't know anything about the advisory services line. Can you please inform my viewers on what exactly is the service line? Secondly, are there certain specializations within advisory services?
Sure. So advisory services are at EY, which we call consulting. It's really about solving companies' problems. So usually a company will come to us looking for a problem within different functions. So it could be in the finance wing, the supply chain wing, operations wings, and we'll go in and we'll do assessments and look to see what kind of recommendations or solutions that we can implement in order to improve or fix their problems. And so for me, I'm in the finance wing, but there are different specializations that you can do with an advisory, which is like supply chain, you can do strategy, operations, tech consulting, etc.
As I mentioned in the beginning, you're currently a senior associate in advisory services at EY. Can you tell my viewers what is a typical day like for you? Also, how does that compare to when you first started off as a first or second year staff or associate?
So as a senior associate, you're really taking on more responsibility of driving different deliverables and the engagement forward. So as a day-to-day, I'm usually on different calls and different meetings to give statuses on different deliverables that I'm responsible for. I'm also communing with the client to make sure that we're addressing their problems in the right way. So that could be having like workshop sessions where I'm showing my different solutions or different uh, works that I'm working on to make sure that we're aligned on how we're progressing. It might also mean having status meetings with different C-suite individuals in order to give a status on the program overall. And that kind of differs from the associate level. As when I was associate, I was really just given the task day by day and had to complete it. I wasn't really involved with the actual strategy going forward on how we'll progress the engagement.
Now, I know there are a number of my current students who would love to work at a Big Four accounting firm such as EY. Unfortunately, it's not easy to get an internship or a full-time job offer. What advice do you have for my students in regards to things that they should do while they're still in college to give them a competitive edge?
Yeah, so I think I'd have like three tips. So my first tip is your GPA. So I would, focus on your school and your studies and making sure that you're doing the best as possible. Now, of course, your GPA is only 1 point within your whole person, but it really is important to keep your GPA up because that will be really attractive in the recruiting process. I would say my second tip is to join your business club or join your accounting club, because that's where a lot of our Big Four are going to be doing their main recruiting. So for example, at LMU, I was a part of our accounting society, and that's where I was able to meet different firms and kind of network and see what options are available. And that's also probably where you're figure out when different recruiting cycles happen and when the interview process happens. And then I would say my last tip is to practice your interviewing skills. So you can practice with a friend, you can go to the career services and see different sample interview questions. You can always go on Google and kind of even look at Big Four interview questions, and they'll have a list of different questions that will be asked during the recruiting process. And that is just so like you're prepared during the interview process, because the interview process is where you're going to shine and show who you are.
You were one of the few students I know that passed all four parts of the CPA exam pretty fast. Can you share with my viewers your recipe for success on how to pass all four sections so quickly?
Yeah, so I think I also was at an advantageous because I was studying during the pandemic and everything was closed. So the only thing I could focus on was studying. So I ended up taking the last 4 months of the year, and that was because I also had my start date pushed out because of the pandemic. And so I had 4 months to just purely focus on studying. So it was kind of crazy, but I studied 8 hours a day, kind of broke it up by like working out between, but I would focus on one test at a time. And I would take 3 weeks and I would take a test after the 3 weeks of studying. And so and my methodology was to do hardest to easiest. So I looked at the lowest pass rate versus the highest pass rate, and the lowest pass rate was FAR. So I took FAR first because I knew if I can pass FAR first, then I can pass anything.
Got one last question for you. Besides being one of my top students and graduating from LMU summa cum laude in accounting, I also wanted to mention to my viewers that you also got early admission into MIT's prestigious MBA program. Thus, you're clearly the right person, in my opinion, to share with my students tips on how to be successful in one's career and life in general. Could you please share your top 3 tips for success?
Yeah, so I'd say my first tip is something my old boss would say is always take the call because you never know what opportunities are out there. So for example, when Professor Liu came to me talking about EY's program called Elements of Success, I had never knew what EY was. I had never heard or knew what a professional accountant did. And I was like, oh, I'm interested to learn more. And I decided to take the call with the recruiter. And that's how I'm here today. Without that interaction, I would have never known all the different possibilities that can happen at EY and Big Four accounting and consulting. I would say my second tip is to be yourself and be authentic. I know a lot of people think there is one way to be a professional or one way to work in corporate America, but I'm here to tell you it's not. We really want you to be like your own authentic self. And I've heard from recruiters to just partners that they don't really care about being the pinnacle professional. They want to see what you bring to the table. The only way you can do that is to be your most authentic self. And then my third and last one is, sometimes you got to go after the things that you want. So when I was interviewing and recruiting at EY, the first thing they told me was, you can only really go into audit and tax. Advisory is not a thing. And I said, I really want to learn more about advisory, and I think that's the space for me. So I kind of kept at it. I would ask the question of like, can I learn more about advisory? Why can I interview? And I never accepted a no in that instance. And that's why I'm here today, because I just pushed and because I knew what I wanted and I pushed for it.
Well, Taylor, it was great chatting with you today. Thanks so much for coming to do this video with me and sharing your words of wisdom with my students. For everyone watching this video, please do what she says. Because obviously she's gotten far in life with all of these great strategies. Anyway, Taylor, I wish you continued success in your career. I look forward to speaking with you again in the near future.
Thanks, Professor Liu.